Hello, children. As the new session started, and I have completed one chapter, which is Introduction, How, When, and Where in History. And the students are ready for the revision, and they want to know how to learn this chapter. So, I am going to discuss this chapter today, and your idea should be to take a notebook and a pen if you note down the things, and if you're revising, sit with the notes which you have made in the class while learning. Okay, let's begin. Okay, so the chapter starts with introduction, how, when, and where. So you should understand that we are going to learn modern history, or you can say you will change this modern into something else when you will learn this chapter from here. So modern history, and you're going to know, because you've already learned ancient and medieval period in 6th and 7th classes. Now you will be learning modern history. So what you are learning in modern history, how you're going to learn, so that is given in this first chapter. So it is basically the introduction to the whole book, or the modern period, or the colonial period, which I'm going to tell you how it is colonial period. So there are three questions which we have to consider. One is how you're going to learn the history, how things happened in the past. Then when, it means the dates which we have to learn, dates, months, year of birth, or maybe there are different events of which we have to learn the dates, and we have to know which dates. Then we have where, like what we are learning from, which country, or about which country, about which place you're learning. So when we are talking about a place, the question becomes where. So with that where, history also changes. That's why we will be seeing everything in the history which we are going to learn this time through these questions. So let's begin. Okay, how means important dates in history, which is actually the periodization. We'll see how it has been periodized, the things has been, the time has been periodized, and how the history has been known, like what were the sources for the history. Then we'll be talking about when, means which time period we are going to start with. So it's 18th century. And where means we are going to talk about completely the history of Indian subcontinent. So these are the three things which you have to understand from here. Next we have how important are dates, like from where, here we start the chapter. So yes, like from the beginning, all the students complain, ma'am, dates are very difficult to learn. But the same time, dates are important in history. And which dates? The dates which are connected to some important event which changed the things in past. So those dates are going to be very important whenever you are learning the history. Now there are some examples given, like name the last powerful Mughal emperor. So everybody knows it's Aurangzeb, and we learned about it in 7th class. After his time period, the Mughal empire started declining. So when did he die? He died, it's like wrong grammar, it should be when did he die. So when did he die? He died in 1707. And where is Aurangzeb's tomb? So it is near Aurangabad. Why we are learning this? Because in the early time it was said that history is all about the dates which are related to the king's life. Okay, whether it is his birth, it is his marriage, his victory in some war, or his child's birth, like that we used to learn. So this is one example which is given, and yes, we learn these things also in past 2 years. Is such a conception true? Yes, it is true, but not completely, because we don't only learn the dates and the events about the kings, but everything around it now. So, history is about changes that occur over time, and the I would like to add on a thing that when we say when was history became more analytical, it became more analytical when Herodotus started analyzing thing and writing the things observing around that date or in that particular place. So Herodotus is also known as father of history. So you should remember this. It is the extra knowledge and important knowledge which you should know being a 8th class student. So history is about the changes that occur over time. So you see, we are learning in ancient history, we learned that in 6th class we learned that there were early humans, then they learned how to civilize, then Harappan civilization came, there were many other civilization in the world, and then there were different changes in their life, like they started getting settled, they learned agriculture, then they started ruling, like they started making mahajanpada kingdoms and then empire. So this is a kind of change which we are learning through time. So that is history actually. It is about finding out how things were in the past and how things have changed. So we actually compare things, how it is now and what was exactly in the early time from the beginning, how it was. So when we see ourselves like this, a civilized human being, we see that once upon a time we were also early human beings. History is about processes and things that happen over a period of time. So yeah, the changes are complete a process, so that process we learn in history. Here there's a picture given, and that is the front piece of the first maps which were produced by James Renell on the orders of Robert Clive, who was the governor of Bengal, and he was chief of the British East India Company's army. So here it is depicting that Brahmanas are offering their Shastras to Britannia, which is the personification of Britain, right? So this was made, the maps were produced in 1782 by James Renell, which you should remember. Next we see, living in the world, we do not always ask historical questions like about what we see around us. Looking out of the window, the train, you may ask yourself, when were railways built and how did people travel long distances before the ages of railways? So yeah, this is the way we should learn history. It's not about all about dates. As I told you, Herodotus, he had certain questions in mind and he started observing things and he started finding out the answer of these questions, like why this event happened, what was the reason for this, what is the conclusion of it, everything related to a particular event. Here the example of railway given, right? And in your chapter, which dates, like you have certain dates given, so you need to find out things, you need to research things around the date, not only the date. So that's how history changes its scope, it changes its approach. Next, you see there is a picture of, again in your book, there's a picture of advertisement from that time period, 1922, and this advertisement is Lipton tea, which you now see Shraddha Kapoor is like promoting that thing, or she's the ambassador, brand ambassador, so she promotes it, and she is promoting nowadays green tea because that is more relevant nowadays, right? Everybody wants to lose weight. So yes, but at that time, which it like from where it began from this type of advertisement where there was a calendar in the bottom part, because calendar was important at that time to see the dates and all. So they used to put something useful, plus there is something which is related to royalty means the people of royal family. So there is a horse, and behind that the fort is given, red fort's picture, and in the front it is on horse the third son of Queen Victoria, who is Duke of Connaught, or you can say Prince Arthur. He got the title Duke of Connaught. So yes, so through this, what they are trying to promote, that royalty prefers royalty. You understand? So Lipton tea belongs to royalty. Now the people who are rich and those who feel to like feel to be rich, or they want to become like they want to feel like royal, they will be having these teas. So this way they used to do um the advertisement. But why we are talking about tea? Because we want to know if the date is important or a time period is important. First of all, you should understand the difference between time period and date. So date is a particular day. Suppose I'm talking about my birthday, it is 3rd September 1991, so it's a date. But when I say the process of my education, it started from the childhood and it is till now it is happening, so it means that is a time period. It is not defined to a particular date. Or let's take the example of any king. So when a king born, that day is known as the birth date, or that is a particular date. But the ruling period of the king will be considered in a time period, like between times, 2 dates, 2 years. So that is how there is a difference between a year or a date and a time period. Now everything in history should be learned between the time period. Okay, like if we talk about the example of having tea, so people in India, when they did start having tea, so was it a particular day or it took a time period? It took a time period. It happened, it was a process, and it happened in a time period. So that's how we should learn things, that things does not happen in a single day. Thing does not happen in a single day. It takes a time period. So that is when a process happens. Okay, we take things for granted, as if what we see has always been in the world we inhabit. Like as I've given you the example of tea, there is an example of paper. We don't see like what was the history of it, but it took a long time to come to its real condition or in the way we see it right now. We ask questions that actually are historical. Watching someone sip a cup of tea at roadside tea stall, you may wonder, when did people begin to drink tea or coffee? People in India did not begin drinking tea one fine day. They developed a taste for it over time. So that is known as time period. Now there are two governor general's picture given, and the reason for it, that when historians started writing history, the Western or European people, they started writing history around the governor general's life or their ruling period in any of the territory. So yes, Warren Hastings, who started ruling in India, and there is misconception that Warren Hastings was the first governor general of India. No, he was not the first governor general of India. He was the first governor general of Bengal. So you need to be clear about it. The first governor general of India was William Bentinck. So don't get confused in such facts. If you want to note down, I am telling you few things you can note down. First, governor of Bengal was Robert Clive. Governor general of Bengal was Warren Hastings. And the third thing which you should know, that Governor General of India was William Bentinck. Then first Viceroy after 1857 revolt was Lord Canning, and the last Governor General was Lord Mountbatten. So these are the information you should know and note down, and do not get confused about such facts. In the histories written by British historian in India, the rule of each Governor General was important. These histories began with the rule of the first Governor General of India, not India, Bengal, Warren Hastings, and ended with the last Viceroy or the last Governor General, you can say, was Mountbatten. And these all writings of British historians were like all revolving around the governor generals, what activities took place in that time period. It was focusing only on the changes which happened at that time period, or the activities of Indian classes, Indian society, whatever was taking place, they were all related to that time period of governor general. So they used to write history like this. Okay. And one of the very important historians was James Mill of at that time. So James Mill first periodized Indian history. So he periodized the Indian history in his book, History of British India, which was written in year 1817. And this was a massive 3 volume work in which he divided Indian history into 3 periods: Hindu, Muslim, and British. So this is the periodization. Now you should know what is the meaning of periodization. So when you divide events on the basis of similar features, or some similarity according to the time period. Okay. In a particular time period, certain similar activities happened, and there is a transition after that. So they used to do the division like that, and this process was known as periodization. So they used to periodize time, and that's why we got to know our type three different division in history: ancient, medieval, and modern. Now it's known as modern, but if we talk about that time, it was not modern at all. We'll learn how. So James Mill, a Scottish economist and philosopher, political philosopher, published a massive 3 volume book which was a history of British India. In this, he divided Indian history into Hindu, Muslim, and British. Now, why do we try and divide history into different periods? Why do we do that? We do it so that we can capture the characteristics of a time period. So similar kind of characteristics, we are talking about ancient history, so we see similar things like the early period of development, its central features, like what basically happened, so we can connect those together and learn easily. That's why we do periodization, to show the change from one period to the next. So I told you there will be a transition period, so that transition is the line where you see the other time period starts. So this is how we divide Indian history, or we periodize the history or any event. Historians divided Indian history into ancient, medieval, and modern. Now, when many historians divided into ancient, medieval, modern, James Mill divided into Hindu, Muslim, and British, which was widely accepted, but it was criticized also. Why widely accepted? Because at that time people were having less knowledge, so they divided it according to the ruler's religion. So James Mill thought or wrote that in the ancient period, mostly the rulers were uh, of Hindu religion. But what about, and in the medieval period, all the rulers were Muslims, and in the British period, like they classified it as the British period in which Christians time started. So it was not a correct classification, because when we talk about history, it's not about the rulers, it's about the common people also. So there were different religion in the common people of the common people in ancient period. Also there was Buddhism, Jainism, so other religions were also there. So we cannot say it is the time period of Hindu only. And in Muslim time period, if we say medieval is like Muslim time period, no, it was not, because there were some Hindu rulers as well, and there were many other faith in our country. So we cannot classify or periodize it as Muslim time period. And British, he said that British time period is all about development and growth. So that was also criticized, because it was not everywhere that growth was taking or development was taking place. So this way it was like criticized, and when it was criticized, other classification was given by the historian. It was ancient, medieval, and modern. Ancient and medieval was quietly accepted, but modern, why it is modern? Why? How can we call any place which is like controlled by other power. The rules are being dictated and people are following it, and it is under an imperial power. How can it be a modern place at that time or the in the present time? Modern feature of societies are basically science, logic, reasoning, and development, innovation, discoveries, plus the ideas like modern ideas, freedom of expression, speech, liberty, democracy, fraternity. These were the ideas. So where we found these in the that period when the Britishers were there? It was not there. So we couldn't classify that time period as modern. But now we are modern. We are in the era of modern history. Now contemporary history can be called as modern history. Now when I say our country was under the British rule, so what exactly term was given to our country? It was colonial. Let's know why it was known as colonial. So what is the meaning of colonial? When the subjugation or the control or the domination of one country, one powerful country, no, a weak country by another which is a powerful country, leads to political, economic, social, and cultural change, that is known as colonial. So India became colony of the British Empire. So that's why, and British Empire was known as imperial power, royal power. So they controlled our country, and they started influencing or taking decision on our behalf, in different aspects. Like in political sense, they started administrating our country, we'll learn in the further chapters. Then they started doing changes in our economic policies, the trade. They established their monopoly on the trade. So economic changes were also there, society was also changing. We were going towards the English education, which is good, but the Indian education system was far better than that. So these changes came, and cultural changes also. We accepted the modern way of dressing and all, food, everything. Like so, the changes occurred when we became the colonial. Okay, so now when you understood all this, and you understood that at that time period when Britishers were ruling India, that time period is known as colonial. So how did we know about all this? What were the sources of it? From where we learned? So there's a picture of National Archives of India came up in 1920. This is the picture of, like actually, it was established in Delhi. The National Archives of India established in Delhi in 1926. Okay, and earlier it was known with some other name. That was Imperial Record Department. It was in Calcutta. So there is a history of this also. Okay, and recently I visited this, so I have put a blog of this also in my on my channel, so you can see that also. So yes, this is now completely changed. The picture has it has changed. It is looking more vibrant, so you can go and visit also, but from outside only. You cannot go inside. So this is a place where all the official documents are kept carefully and properly, so that it is not misplaced, it is not being ruined. Or so this is how Britishers used to keep the record safe. Okay, before this time period, Britishers time period, we were not more conscious about writing. Britishers told us that writing is an important thing. Britishers taught us how to keep the records safe. So they produces administration records. The important sources of historians in this period is written official records, which was maintained by British administration. They prepared and preserved the important documents, letters sent by the officials. Anybody who was writing a letter to any official, they used to keep it safe. The purchases, they used to do in trading, they used to keep the receipt, है ना, they used to keep them safe. Specialized institution, और कहाँ रखते थे वो उसको? In the record rooms or in the institutions like archives or museum. तो जितने भी old type of manuscripts थे, they were all preserved in the museum. Then there were some other books, literatures which they found. They started keeping them safe in these buildings. Now they started doing surveys. Why? Because they wanted to know the country, the subcontinent, before they start ruling it. So at that time it was not a country, and there was no concept of country. So it was a subcontinent. India was a subcontinent. Like there was many different countries connected to its land territory. Okay, countries concept comes when you people are connected with the country. You feel that this is your nation, then it becomes country. You will learn it in the last chapter, but yes, at that time it was not country. So they started doing survey. Survey means knowing, collecting the data of different aspect of anything. So they started collecting data, they started doing survey, and it became very important at that time. So the effort was to know the flora, fauna, soil quality, cropping pattern, everything. They wanted to know everything about the country so that they can exploit the resources in optimal manner. Also, they know the people of the country, how they think, what is actually they are, their what was their past, everything they wanted to know. And they wanted to count people also. So to count people, they started doing census. Census is basically the operation which was held after every 10 year, and it was first began in um, in 1872. So it began at that time, and after that, after every 10 years it continued. So a census means counting of people and knowing different aspect of a people. Like if the counting is going on, how many people living in one family, how many are male, how many are female, what is their age, what is their qualification, education, what is their job, everything they used to know. So this started from there. And last census which happened was 2011, and after that no census happened because of the corona, that pandemic time period. Now it will happen after I think election. So let's see. And there were drawings, paintings which were like done at that time. It is one of the drawing made by James Prinsep. There were three James. I mean, there are three James in this chapter. Learn their name carefully. All were important. So in 1832, when the survey was going on in Bengal's a village of Bengal, so they made this painting from there, and this was to know people of our country. Okay, then what official records do not tell. Okay, when we talk about newsletters, memo, official documents, text collection record, it is all telling about the perspective of Britishers, because they collected these data. But what about the common people? How do we know about the common people? We know about, how do we know about the tribals, peasants and workers, है ना? So these people's history is still like now we have started exploring. These became less like these were not written by the Britishers properly. So we got to know about these from the oral things, plus from the different sources like the diaries of the people, then the accounts of pilgrim, like the people who used to travel for religious purpose, they are known as pilgrims. Travelers who used to come to India and they used to observe and write their travelogues, plus autobiography of important personalities. They used to write about their life and the surroundings, whatever happened to the other people in his life, like during his life span. And so these things tell us about more about the common people. Also popular booklets which were sold in local markets, plus newspapers, plus ideas of leaders, reformers, poets and novelists. They also used to express their ideas, and they used to write about the condition which was contemporary to them. So this is how we got to know about certain about certain community, common people. But there were few people about which still we have very less knowledge, like the tribals, the peasants, workers. About them you will learn in certain chapters of this book of yours. So get ready for that. And this picture is about of like 1857 revolt, which is also known as the first independence war. So yeah, that is important. Now there are certain questions which will help you to learn, like when the subjugation of one country. What is colonial? So there is the meaning given. Who was Warren Hastings? He was not first governor general of India. It is written wrong. It should be the first governor general of Bengal. He was the first governor general of Bengal, and he was made governor general in 1773. Okay, how did British preserve official documents? So there were archives, record room with every offices, and then museums. So this way we complete this chapter. I hope it is helpful. Thank you so much.